Hey everyone, this is Laszlo Montgomery, and welcome to another episode of the China History Podcast. Not just any episode. To mark the occasion of my 10-year anniversary of being in this racket and presenting the CHP to you.
What are some most requested topics by your audience?
Well, it's funny you ask, because right now I am working on the most requested topic of all time. People have been requesting this topic almost since I started, and that is the history of Taiwan. There is quite a dearth of understanding about Taiwan. What little is known is really post-1949, and even that's pushing it. Especially since Speaker Pelosi's visit. Everybody's got an opinion about Taiwan. But once you sort of scratch down beneath the surface, I found there's very little understanding about Taiwan, and not only understanding, but an appreciation about Taiwan and its history. So I started a series on Taiwan after so many people asking me for this, and especially again since Speaker Pelosi's trip. The drum beats got louder and louder, so I started doing it. From the geological formation of the island, and I'll probably take it up to maybe the election of Tsai Ing-wen. And I hope that when it's finished, people have a better appreciation of Taiwan's history, what that place is all about, and you know, if it does anything to up the game of the national discourse about Taiwan, this issue, I'll be happy.
There had been some migration of Chinese from Fujian to Penghu in Taiwan, but even as late as the 17th century, the Chinese community on Taiwan didn't amount to more than 20,000 or so, and most of those who came from the mainland only stayed on Taiwan from spring planting to the autumn harvest, and the rest of the time was spent back home in Fujian.
How do you handle the topics where the Chinese government and the Taiwanese government have disputes on?
Well, I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I know how to do it. I know how to do this. I mean, if you stay true to the history and not get sidetracked with the opinions, I will not have any trouble. I did a 12-part history on the history of Xinjiang at a time when it was a very, very heated topic. Well, it still is, but yeah, and everybody was expecting some kind of a 12-part rant, but it was what it was. It was the history of Xinjiang without any, I only went up to 1949, but still, there was nothing in there.
But why stop at 1949?
Because it was already 12 episodes, and I'm thinking, I think I'll do modern Xinjiang maybe another time. My intention on introducing Xinjiang was more to introduce the ancient history and, up to, say, the 20th century. I wasn't looking to get too involved in Xinjiang under the PRC.
So in the third episode, I remember that you talk about how the Qing government have actually never fully gained control over the entire island of Taiwan, and how they have debates on whether we should take Taiwan under control of mainland China. Does your Chinese audience have any criticism?
Not yet. But I'm waiting for it. So far, no. There hasn't been any kind of outrage expressed. But I haven't gotten to the sensitive part yet. You could say, okay, Taiwan was annexed in 1684. So some people may say, oh, well, in that case, Taiwan hasn't been part of China for that long. There's all kinds of things that you could say about the history of Taiwan to politicize it and try and puff up your viewpoint or standpoint, but so far I'm walking right down the center and staying true to my mission, which is to present the history of Taiwan, not the history of the Taiwan problem, as it's so often called.
Yeah, it's important to provide balanced content. It's not easy also.
Yeah.
But you also never did a history on maybe CCP or Tiananmen incident, June 4th, or Liu Xiaobo. Is your audience interested in these topics?
Yeah. Some people like a good fight. They'll say, hey, why don't you do this? Or why don't you, I did an episode on Xi Jinping before the Shibata, before he became party chairman, just giving his basic, let people know who this is the next leader of China. So it was there to teach people, who is this man? What's his background? Where does he come from? And that's it. And people say, well, why don't you update it? Why don't you bring it up to date? It's like, well, Xi Jinping, just like the president of the United States, it's a very sensitive subject. And, maybe 50 years from now, I'll bring it up to date. Because in 50 years, we'll have better perspective on the results of Xi Jinping's leadership.
But anything happened in the past 10 years about Xi Jinping that you think would be worth mentioning?
Yeah, for sure. His leadership, there's a lot of things that could be mentioned. I'll get to it. Right now, I have so many other... right now, there are so many podcasts on Xi Jinping that are coming out. It's like, I don't really need to.
I noticed that you rarely touch politics in your podcast.
Yeah.
Have you ever been interested, personally in Chinese politics, or is it just...
Yeah, sure. Politics, when you're discussing China, the Chinese history, there's all kinds of politics. You can talk about politics in the Northern Song with Wang Anshi. There's always politics. But when you say politics, you mean our gritty, dirty, confrontational politics of the 21st century. There's no reason to. I don't see. This isn't a political show. There's so many podcasts that will satisfy you on that front. People have said to me, you see comments on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, people will say, what I like about this guy? I can't tell. Is he a Republican or a Democrat? There's never any injection of politics into his show. I don't even know if he's a liberal or a conservative. Right? I take that as a compliment.
How did you get interested about China's history?
Shortly after Deng Xiaoping came to America, if you were, you probably weren't even born yet, but this was in January 1979. He came, he met with President Jimmy Carter. We normalized relations. And I remember as a sophomore, just finishing up my second year, thinking, oh, wow, I was as excited as everyone else. There was this exuberance, this exhilaration in 1979 about the future of U.S.-China relations and what it may become for educational exchanges, tourism, business. It just, 1979, China's 4 years, 3 years out of the Cultural Revolution, so there was this profound sense of optimism about what it might become one day. Obviously, someone like me and many others who are so passionate and care about good U.S.-China relations, it's very unhappy to see where it is right now. But 1972, we couldn't stand each other either. But still, Chairman Mao, President Nixon, they found a way to hold their nose and find a way to get along and lower the vitriol. So now we find ourselves in this kind of situation again, and I'm hopeful that there's a way to 想办法, find a way to get out of this situation.